Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Jaws. If you don't know me already, I'm an EU Contenders caster. I recently did Overwatch World Cup over in Korea. And is this something new I'm trying at the moment, a thing called Compcast, where I basically sit down and just talk about various subjects, whether that's soloq related or patch related or, you know, play related in general. Today I actually want to talk something that's quite near and dear to my heart, and that's soloq and the comparisons between Korean and EU soloq. Now, if you haven't seen already, I recently hit 4K in Korea, Grandmaster in Korea, after decaying on my main account to around 3.6K and ended up getting back to 4K in around a day. It took me roughly, like game time, it probably took me around 5 hours or something. Ish. I can't really remember, I'm not gonna lie, but it took me a day-ish, kind of sitting around and just playing the game, right? So I got back to 4K, so I gained about 400 SR, which is pretty nice. My peak in EU is about 4.2K as well. So this is just a video I wanted to make on was the differences between the two regions. It's always quite interesting playing on EU for an extensive amount of time, and the trips I do take to Korea, whether that's holiday or work or, you know, seeing friends or whatever, I do end up playing a little bit of soloq because it is extremely fun, especially when it's in Korea on the servers and on the ridiculously low ping. And I thought I'd give everybody a little bit of an insight on how you actually play on those servers and how people do play on the servers as well. So I'm just going to jump straight into it and talk about like the mechanics of the players. So especially in Korea, you can imagine the mechanics are fairly high, whether that's due to the low ping or just the crazy mechanics of the Korean players. Regardless of what it actually is, mechanically every player is insane. And to preface this as well, I've played in multiple elos. In EU, I've played in Platinum, Diamond, Master, obviously, and Grandmaster, and played with top 500 players. And in Korea, I've played in Plat, Diamond, and like Master GM. Like, I've played a little bit in Plat Diamond, like not so much really. It's really been like High Master, Grandmaster that I've played in. So that kind of gives a small background to that. But like the mechanics of players, no matter what the elo you are in, is just crazy strong. They are much better than any ranking that I've played in. So if I play in like Diamond in Korea and I play in Diamond in EU, the EU players will like not do as well, perform well on things like Genji, Tracer. In Korea, they like Tracers will one clip you 100% of the time. In Diamond, it's actually quite scary, and it's something that I was a little bit taken aback with when I did play on a Diamond account in Korea. The Tracers were one clipping me on Zenyatta, which doesn't always happen when you're playing in Diamond and like, you know, high plat kind of thing. In EU, I'm not used to that, and I'm used to being able to fight back and actually kill them. But in Korea, that's not the case. That they will kill you 100% of the time. The Genjis as well will just know how to dance around you incredibly well. Movements. Just the movements and just the positioning and the positional awareness of Genjis and Tracers and just all these dive heroes. The Koreans just know how to play a ton better. Even in Grandmaster, it's actually horrible, and I've said this to a few friends before. When I do play in Korea, like, it's so much harder to play in mobile supports. I normally play Ana, I normally play Zenyatta as well, especially with the new Ana patch also, which is another video I'll be doing a little later on. It's awful because you're going to run into Doomfist every game, you're going to run into Genjis every game, and Tracers, the pop-off heroes, and there are most of the time going to be 3 DPS on your team versus another 3 DPS, and it can be kind of a tall task because your team will push forwards and then the Doomfist and Genjis will push at you and you will instantly die. Which again leads to kind of the fast-paced nature of Korean soloq as well, which is something I'll get to in a minute. But like mechanically, they will outskill you like 9 out of 10 times if you compare the two regions of the elos I've played at. Obviously, again, this isn't a comparison of like the very top end of Korean soloq versus EU soloq. This is kind of Grandmaster, Master tier mechanics. It is much higher in Korea than it is in EU. However, the game sense isn't always there some of the time. Like, some people just don't know how to like stall out for time on point. Like, I've been like, people have C9'd a couple of times where they really didn't mean to because they just go so aggressive and so hard. So mechanically, they're above EU soloq 100%. However, game sense wise, they're near enough on the same level. It's kind of it's strange in that regard, coming up against crazy mechanical players that sometimes just don't know how the game like operates at a fundamental level, which is quite funny. So yeah, mechanically, outskilled. However, with this whole like 3 DPS thing as well, which I just touched on a second ago, you more often than not you're going to run into these like flashy playmaking heroes like Tracer, like Genji, like Doomfist. Regardless of the meta, it seems. I've played in the Brigitte meta, I've played in the Ana meta now, I've played in this was actually in Diamond beforehand, but I've played in like Quad Tank was like really strong also, but Koreans will just play pre-Hanzo rework. I played in that elo as well, that era as well at around Diamond elo. And even then, like, people are picking Genji no matter what. Like, it's a really like flashy hero. It's easy to kind of carry with if you're good on Genjis. Doomfist also, there's a lot more Doomfist now than there ever has been. Every single player, every single game you'll go in, there's going to be 2 Doomfists. If there's 1 Doomfist, you're going to have another one in the enemy team. Someone will die, swap to Doomfist like 9 out of 10 times. And a small caveat to that, actually, which is quite funny, what I've noticed: if someone's demolishing you on Mei, you will have a Mei on your team next round, or you will have a Mei on your team next time someone dies. If someone switches onto it, if someone starts out on a Mei and you start getting crushed, we're gonna have a Mei as well. Like, people, the Korean players just really like countering with the exact same hero, just going straight up mirror, saying I can prove that I'm better than you on this character. Is quite interesting. I've got small notes, by the way. The fast-paced nature of things in the Korean ladder as well is kind of crazy. Again, playing rather mobile supports. I also play things like McCree as well if supports are taken. Supports are actually fairly popular in Korea, which is kind of strange. Normally on the ladder in EU, I'm getting Zenyatta most of the time, or I get Ana like some of the time. If there's not a main heal, obviously there's quite a lot of main heals up in low Grandmaster, just going on the Mercy like MMR, kind of pushing people up and playing main heal that way, and people switching over to Ana now because she's so strong. I play a little bit McCree also, but playing anything with no mobility or very little mobility is very scary, because the Koreans will take a fight every 20 seconds if they can. There's very little waiting around, and like if your Ryan's pushing in, you have to be like literally on top of him, because if you don't, you're going to get killed by the Genjis, Doomfists, or Tracers. Like, you will get killed by them 10 out of 10 times. There's no way you're going to be able to escape that that certain death, especially from a Doomfist who's extremely strong at the moment. Yeah, so you literally have to react instantly. As soon as your Reinhardt's moving, as soon as your Zai's moving, you have to move in with them. You cannot lag behind whatsoever, and they will take fights every 20 seconds because they just want to make sure they make full use of the time bank, which is something I don't actually see in EU a ton. I see a lot of like stalling around, obviously with Widowmaker being so good, and a lot of people on ladder being very good at Widowmaker. If she does pick someone off, you do have to wait around. You do. It's just kind of the nature of Widowmaker. If she does find a pick and there's no mercy on your side, you have to wait for the respawn, otherwise you're going to be fighting on 5v6. In Korean solo queue, they don't like to give Widowmakers time at all to actually react to anything. So like, the first push, you walk out spawn and you're straight in already. You're already in a fight, and you will always already be halfway to the point. Take example for Anubis, for example. So you have Widowmaker set up on the defense, on the high ground. She is instantly either going to find a pick, or she's not going to be able to react to the like oncoming onslaught of tanks and the DPS trying to dive her. They will use their first, like a Winston for example, first leap will be on that Widowmaker 100% of the time, because you need to shut it down, otherwise your Widowmaker's not going to be able to perform too well. So fast-paced nature is crazy compared to EU, and in EU it feels a lot more slow. I'm not sure, but that's because they play a lot more tanks, because like I mentioned, it's a lot of 3 DPS in Korea because people want to pop off. But it does feel a little bit more paced out in the way that people play. They do like to make use of the time bank in a way that, you know, setting up for ults. Like, okay, wait a second here, I've almost got ult on Zaya, just let me farm a little bit more and we'll go in like full hard. Like in Korea, like it's very opposite. They'll just rush in, dive, and just try and kill you, and just build up ult that way, which is quite daunting to start off with. Your first few games definitely will be rather terrifying, and you might not be able to keep up in terms of pace, especially if you're a support player, or especially if you're like a DPS class with low mobility. Like I said, I played McCree and Grandmaster in Korea, and I got dunked on by a lot of players. Again, the mechanics comes into that, just the raw aim and the raw skill from them is just insane. So if you're playing something like McCree, you're going to have to be, like I said, on your Ryan's arse like most of the time, because otherwise you're not going to get protection. If you get left out of the back, they're going to bait your cooldowns out and they will be able to kill you. There's just no way. And then you get flamed, so you don't want that at all, especially when it's in Korean. It can get quite loud, because some of the player bases in PC bungs, and yeah, you can definitely tell when people are pissed. So heroes, in terms of the hero picks I see in Korea, they're, in comparison to EU, in EU there's a ton of Doomfist right now, with the Doomfist buff recently on his shielding whenever he hits an ability being increased. He ends up at like a semi-tank and it's fairly hard to kill him. So with the prevalence of Doomfist in EU solo queue, it's definitely been rising in Korea as well, although there were a lot more Doomfists in Korea than I experienced in EU before the buff, which is fairly interesting. It's, again, I think it's because he is a very oppressive hero when it comes down to it. He is extremely strong at the moment, and even before, he was able to one-shot Arnas, one-shot Zenyatas, one-shot 200 HP targets without too much of an issue, and it seems like that's what the Korean players on the ladder actually like to do. They just like to just take someone out and put themselves and put their team at an advantage in where they can just win in a 5v6. And if you're in a 5v6, there's no way you're going to win. Like, absolutely not. Doomfist assassinates one of the back line, you're done, that's it. Sometimes in EU, I feel like you can come round and you can actually pick back up, but in Korean solo queue, it definitely feels like it's a lost fight, and more often than not as well, if someone goes down like that, yeah, everybody will just back off instantly. People are very good at recognizing won and lost fights, and I think that's why Doomfist is so good in solo queue there, because as soon as you do pick someone off, instantly everybody on the enemy team, they'll just back off. They won't fight. They know it's a 5v6. They know they're going to lose. Again, making use of the time bank is something that Koreans do a ton. Like I said before, a lot of Tracers, a lot of Genjis, a lot of triple DPS. There's a few McCrees here and there. I didn't see a ton of Pharah, and you won't normally, unless it's like a Pharah dominant map, because Widowmakers are, again, very good. The raw aim skill is just insane, so you're not going to be able to play Pharah at a good level. However, there is a situation where if your Widows are getting dunked on, I know in solo queue and EU, like, they're going to stay on Widowmaker for some reason. If you just try and convince someone to change off, they might do. Not so much the case. It's very much of a pride thing in Korean solo queue, where they'll just stick on the Widowmaker and they will want to kill the enemy Widowmaker, and if they do, that's good. They'll start on getting a roll on from there, but if they don't, they'll die loads and won't necessarily switch. It's very much the two extremes, where they won't switch whatsoever, like at all, or they'll switch instantly because they got like demolished. Somebody hit like a nutty headshot and she's like, yeah, fuck this. Okay, I'm going to go on to something like a Tracer, something like a Genji. I can actually counter the Widowmaker like straight up in the face rather than taking the one-on-one. It is very much the two extremes. And speaking of extremes also, and this is again something that I found quite funny, is the winning and loss, the scenarios in which you win or lose. So what I mean by that is, you either get crushed really fucking hard, or you win really hard. Like, there's very few times where I've been in a game where it's been 50-50, where it's like, okay, we could win, we couldn't win, like, maybe we can win. They got a 6-minute time bank on like Horizon or something. Can we have, I don't know, 2 minutes or like sub 2 minutes? You're either gonna just crush, or you're going to get crushed because the enemy team is like too good, or there's Smurfs on the enemy team or whatever. There's very few situations where the game is extremely close, which is also quite interesting, because in EU, again, I think there's quite a lot of situations where you can pull back like super clutch mode, and it can happen in Korea. I'm not saying it can't. It just feels like every time you go into a game, you're either going to get crushed or crush people, which again kind of leads to EU being this region that feels like they use the whole time bank, but they use it very like slowly, methodically kind of thing. And Korea's like, go, just jump in, just kill, just try and just overwhelm them with pressure. So that's another thing I've noticed between the two regions, which is pretty cool. Yeah, being a foreigner on the ladder is quite interesting. There's only a couple of callouts I know in Korean, and I'll go and voice chat every now and then. It depends, because you can kind of tell just by just by someone's language, not someone's language, but the way they're talking, if you kind of want to be in there or not. Even if you don't understand the language, it's very easy to tell if someone's being quite hostile to other people. So it's pretty easy to just leave voice. Like I climbed to 4K without using voice. I think I used voice like twice because they asked me to, and I didn't call anything out. I just sat in voice and then just listened for the words, for certain words and certain phrases, so I kind of knew what to do. It's when someone calls out someone low, you know, you can just follow up on that fairly easily. If they need heals, they'll shout for heals, kind of thing. So in that regard, I think it was it's hard being a foreigner, obviously, if you don't know the language. And if it's extremely fast as well, like I'm not going to understand whatsoever. And half the time I did set out a voice, and people were able to pick up on the fact that I was a foreigner, like some of the time. I'd say like 20% of the time, because they type in English in chat if I'm not doing anything. Or if they feel like I'm not doing anything, they'll just type in English in chat, like Zen heal or something, and I'm like, okay, I'll just try and heal that guy a little bit more. You know, it's just kind of that small barrier. I don't think hinders you like a crazy ton, but it's still gonna be there. Again, I think it's valuable regardless of your region to be in voice, even if you're not talking, just so you can kind of hear call outs from other players. Again, calling out someone's low. It's pretty easy to kind of recognize that and then follow up on those small commands. Yeah, I've only had it once before where someone noticed I was a foreigner and they threw because I was a foreigner. That was kind of weird. Although I'm not sure it was because I was a foreigner, because we had a Sim 1 trick on our team, which is another thing I'll get to in a second. We had a Sim 1 trick on our team, and he said, like, in English, he'd like typing in Korean the whole game, and then I think I don't know, I feel like he realized I was a foreigner. I don't know, because I said something in English in chat, and obviously my accent is pretty distinguishable. Like, it's not Korean, so I'm not like trying to speak Korean. I'm not like don't have a Korean accent, so I can't even sound Korean, even if I do say Korean words. So it's super easy to tell that I am. And he kind of like had enough from there. Was like, yeah, I'm done. It switches to something stupid like Torbjorn. There aren't too many throwers though. There aren't a crazy amount in the games that I played. It was very much, if you're going to get crushed, people won't try as hard, and they will just kind of let the game go, like whatever, we'll go next, I don't really care, and then they'll try the next game. But on the topic of one tricks, however, very few one tricks exist, unless they're, again, private profiles don't really help, so you can't really tell. And I'm sure there are loads of one tricks that I didn't notice, but they were playing meta heroes, or they were playing heroes like Doomfist. There are a lot, like I said, there are a lot of Doomfist players, even playing quick play. I see like some people next to me in a PC bang, like just playing quick play or whatever, they'll be playing Doomfist, which is quite funny. So yeah, the only one tricks I did run into were two Sim 1 tricks. I ended up avoiding them both because, well, I avoided one of them because one of them was really good. Like, Korean Sims are just crazy, and it's something I've talked about on my stream actually recently, is the fact they just know how to play Sims so well at the moment. And what they'll do, and they'll do the same play every single time they have cooldowns up, is throw the teleporter down near supports, and they'll instantly throw turrets at the bottom of the teleporter, so it's kind of hard to see them, and the DPS from the turrets is just crazy. So it's like an instant ton of damage, and then even if you kill the turrets, you're not focusing on the teleporter killing the teleporter, and it has a lot of HP as well. So either a monkey comes to the teleporter or it just jumps on you and instantly kills you. It's very frustrating to play against. Like, I've never seen a sim play like that before in EU. I haven't seen a ton of them, really. The Sim 1 tricks, they've seemed diverted away from Sim, or that they've got banned. I don't know, but there hasn't been as many I've experienced in EU. But comparatively, there are less one tricks. I only ran into those two. I avoided one because it was just really bad, and I ended up keeping one not on my avoid list. There aren't too many players I could avoid, or like wanted to avoid, to be fair. I just wanted to have an open pool. There was the only thing I was going to avoid was the one tricks, and I did end up successfully avoiding one of those. Yeah, there's a lot of Tor one tricks, a lot of May one tricks in EU solo queue. Not so much Torb anymore. I don't know where they've gone either. Even they've got bored of Torb or bored of Overwatch. I don't know, but they've just, you know, shifted on to other heroes. But there aren't so many of them anymore. There's a few Mays that I know of. However, they don't really appear in my games a whole ton anymore. I just know they exist. Every now and then I'll get one on my team or one on the enemy team or whatever. But there's definitely less in Korea. Whether that's because they want to carry, so they play other heroes, or something else, I just don't know. But yeah, That covers that. Yeah, one tricks. Okay, Smurfs is another thing I wanted to talk about. There are a ton of Smurfs, and like normally in EU I can tell who's who when it comes to Smurf accounts, or like they'll speak, I kind of recognize their voice. They're like X or Y guy from soloq, whether they're like not even a contenders player, just like a random guy that I know. But in Korea, like every game, you're gonna have 3 or 4 Smurfs in Grandmaster, like every game, and they're going to be like sub-level 50, you know, classic Smurf size. They're like sub-level 50. They'll lock in Widow Make it instantly and all this kind of jazz. No idea who they are. They'll either have a Korean name or it'll be a name nothing related to their main account, which is fairly normal for a Smurf account, to be fair. My Smurf account's got jaws in it still, but regardless, it's not normally something that happens. You will see accounts that will just be named completely something different, like Mira's account on EU soloq, Angie, I think it is. That's his Smurf, and it's like nothing related to him at all, but everybody knows who he is, you know. So yeah, there's a ton of Smurfs every single game. They'll be either tank. They will rarely be support players. They'll be tank players, or they will be DPS players. More often than not, it will be DPS, and they will probably play Widowmaker, which is fairly normal for Smurf accounts, I think, playing Widowmaker, because it's a very high impact hero. And it was one of the lowest leveled accounts I've ever seen in Grandmaster was like level 30 or level 29 or something silly. It was just something ridiculously low with a Grandmaster badge. I was like, damn. So that was pretty intense. That was actually in a game with top 500 players as well, and they were obviously really good. I think the top 500 barrier for entry there was 4.2 ish, I think. I can't really remember. I did check the leaderboard, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was around 4.2, so it was 4.2 and above. This is when the season was still a little bit new. So the barrier to entry was at slightly smaller. I think now it's like even at the end of the season, like 4.35 or something. So yeah, a lot of Smurfs all the time, and because of the whole SMS Protect thing, they can't get top 500 anymore, but regardless, they're still going to climb to like 4,400 quite easily, especially playing the way they do. And again, the mechanical difference between like a 4.1k player or like a 4k player and like a 4.6k player is huge, obviously, because that's technically a whole other tier, because every tier is about 500 SR. So they're always going to be very big, but again, the mechanical skill just goes straight up in terms of soloq players, so they will be a lot tougher to beat than like a 4.4k player in EU, for example. And they're also playing on like 4 ping. I think I play on 4 or 5 ping in the PC bung that I go to. So playing on that also takes some getting used to, and that's obviously how people are so good, because they play on LAN ping all of the time, which obviously really helps when in terms of transitioning into a tournament client onto a live stage like Overwatch League. That definitely helps. In terms of ping and in terms of actually playing on that kind of environment, if no one's ever played on a LAN environment before, that is basically it. It will take you a little while to get used to, sorry, what am I trying to say? Hit scan, not hit scan, I'm dumb. projectile. So Pharah, Zenyatta specifically, Genji, anything like that, that's a projectile. It will take you a little while to get used to, because you're used to, so for example, here I play at 40 ping in EU soloq, or 40 or 35-ish. I think it's about 35. And my shots obviously will be taking into account that 35 ping, just subconsciously, and switching that to taking about 30 of that ping off is insane, and your shots will hit a little bit quicker and a little bit more. You'll obviously be able to you won't have to take into account that ping aspect, so it will take you a few games to kind of roll on in and just make sure your shots are hitting. Even things like flashbang on McCree, like anything that's a projectile, even DPS and hit scan, it's a little bit more sharp. You can definitely feel it as soon as you get in. Everything responds obviously 30 milliseconds quicker than it normally would in EU. Yeah, what other topics do I have? Yeah, mechanics, fast paced. I already talked about that. If you ever get a chance to play, definitely would recommend it. If you ever do go to Korea, go to a PC bung. Try and get one that's got a 144 Hz monitor. There's one that I always go to, the Afrika one. That's an extremely good one. when it comes to actually playing the game. I did play it at 60 hertz PC bang once, and obviously it kind of sucks because 60 hertz kind of blows, and 144 is a lot better. If you haven't got that at home, it's definitely worth investing in a new monitor. I'm just saying, it makes the gaming experience a whole lot better. But definitely give it a go. It's extremely hard. You probably won't be able to communicate with the players at all unless you know a little bit of Korean, or like a lot of Korean, because people will be shouting down the mic most of the time. And it can get pretty crazy because, again, the fast-paced nature of it, the mechanics, and you're probably going to place lower than you would. I definitely, like, a little bit of stroke of luck getting 4K, but I still managed to do it. There was definitely a hot streak of games that I was on, and I think I was performing pretty well. But it was definitely a big achievement for me, reaching 4K in Korea. But I don't think I'd be able to get much higher. And even in EU, I was really gunning to get 4.2, and I did end up getting that last season, so that was really nice. But it's a lot tougher. The environment's a lot more intense, and that's, I think, is why you're seeing a lot more Korean players being extremely good at Overwatch and just any esport when it comes to like League of Legends and stuff. They have a perfect practice environment in terms of their connectivity being an extremely low ping, and being and the competitiveness as well. It's actually insane. I've heard horror stories of like League of Legends, people quitting halfway through, you know, or like 10 minutes in because they don't care. Overwatch is a little bit different because the games are a lot quicker, so people will give it a shot more often than not. But if you are getting crushed, then people won't really care as much because they can just go next. It's not a problem, and people don't really have any qualms about that whatsoever. There's very rarely, however, you will get a quitter because they don't want to lose the 50 SR. I think I had one quitter out of the 50 plus games that I played, so that's again something to kind of look forward to. Very, very few quitters, and if they do quit, they'll quit at the start of the game, so it doesn't mess anybody else up, which is always quite nice. But yeah, that is this is it. I mean, my Korean solo queue versus EU solo queue kind of breakdown. If I got any more thoughts, I'll post them on Twitter or post them wherever. But that was kind of the summary of it. The mechanics are better. The fast-paced nature of it's insane. Less one tricks. People try it like just a ton harder as well, which is always quite nice. Even if I can't tell they're trying harder, like just in voice, they could be like flaming everybody, but they will be trying 110% every single game, which is very cool. Especially when you reach the ranks of Grandmaster, people really want to go for it, which is really nice. Sometimes in EU, like, people don't really mind too much if they win or lose, right? But in Korea, definitely a different atmosphere, which is really nice. And yeah, definitely give it a go if you're ever out in Korea. 100% head up a PC bang and just play on your, because you can play on your main account, by the way. It's you just log in, same thing. Just make sure you click the Asia server, otherwise you will be playing in EU or NA by default, so make sure you click the little button that says Asia, not EU or NA, and you'll be on your way. Don't do the mistake I did, which was queue for a ranked game and then jump into an EU game with 300 ping, which sucked, and I had to just play Lucio, and we ended up losing. Oh well. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you very soon.